Well, a very warm welcome to everyone joining us for this session, Teaching with Explain Everything. We've previously been running these as webinars, but today it's just a normal Zoom meeting. So I think people are going to be joining us as they figure out how to follow that link from Eventbrite, and we'll see how it goes. So we might just take a leisurely stroll through my introductory slides as a few more people join us. So welcome and introductions. My name's Tim Lings. I'm Director of IT here at Heronsgate Primary School, and I'm joined by my esteemed colleague.
Hi there, Ralph Corrish, Year 5 teacher here at Heronsgate and on the ICT team. And quite clearly from that picture, I've been in lockdown too long and desperately need a haircut.
You've gone so before and after shot. You can see
how's it going?
Lost even more hair. Anyway, fine. Possibly I need to shave the side bits. Anyway, come on, carry on, Tim. So Heronsgate Primary School, that's the school we're speaking from. We were an Apple Distinguished School. I managed to find one of these badges to put on my slides. You can find a book about our school on the Apple Bookstore. Maybe I'll talk about that another time. But we host the Greenwich Apple Regional Training Centre. So there are 70 or so Apple Regional Training Centres across the UK and Ireland. And the purpose of them is to build skills and confidence for educators using Apple technology inside and outside the classroom. So it's a community who share best practice and inspire excellence through teaching with Apple technology. So today we're going to be thinking about iPad as an interactive whiteboard, and then how you can use Explain Everything to do that. And we're not going to earn that badge. That needs to be edited out. Fine, let's carry on. So your Zoom might look a little bit like this. We've got a nice mute button here. So if you keep yourself muted, unless of course you've got something to share, which there'll be chances for questions and answers later on. And if you tap on the more button, you should be able to chat. So I think I've enabled chat. We'll discover shortly. But before we go any further, it's always nice to start with a poll. So I've got a little poll here. The question is, what technology do you use to teach with? So this is a multiple choice poll. I'm hoping. It doesn't look like it is. We might have to just pick one. There you go. So perhaps which one of these best describes your way of teaching? So if you're able to just join us filling in the poll.
We've never really looked at Google Slides before, have we?
Yeah, but I imagine there are people out there. Good. Okay. So Keynote, PowerPoint, I can see coming through.
I don't think I even know what Promethean Active Inspire is.
Well, you need to visit BET and see all the smorgasbord of possible.
I'm never allowed out, Tim. You know that.
Maybe when it's next on. Okay. Okay, I'm going to end the poll there. So PowerPoint and Keynote seem to be being used, but there's lots of options out there. Maybe if you're watching this, you're not such a big fan. I'm just going to share those results. Big fan of Smart Notebook anyway. But there's lots of options out there about how to get what you're using onto a big screen. So I was wondering if people would like to share in the chat any benefits and drawbacks of the technology that's used to help with teaching. So how does it help? Things like smart boards, etc. And what are some of the drawbacks? Maybe you can share any of your thoughts, Ralph, while people share in the chat.
Well, I mean, obviously, technology can improve the efficiency of things, definitely, and it can make it more interactive and more give more opportunities for collaboration as well, I'd say. Sometimes it can perhaps be a distraction when you lose focus of the main purpose of your teaching. I think sometimes if you're too busy focusing on making sure it's technologically ahead of itself, then you lose sometimes perhaps of the focus of why you are teaching the lesson. So it has to be sort of effective in order for it to be beneficial.
Yeah, definitely. And when things don't work,
that can be annoying.
Doesn't help anybody. Okay, so I'm just going to share a little bit about how you can use iPad as an interactive whiteboard. So this is a perhaps slightly cheeky description of the average classroom. Maybe it's not like this anymore, but let's go for it anyway. So you might have some kind of interactive whiteboard softwares, perhaps Smart Notebook, connected to your lovely PC there in your classroom, and connected to a smartboard. So what's not to love about that? Now, there are a few issues, is that perhaps these days it is improved, but how good is the interactivity? Perhaps you're having to realign your board all the time. And another issue is that you're basically using a desktop interface with touch, and it's not really quite designed for that. And very possibly in the school setting that it's out of date. And perhaps some of the parts are quite expensive and hard to replace. So if your smartboard, the computer's even in the smartboard, and that costs a lot of money, if it gets old, it's not necessarily going to get replaced very often. So these are some of the challenges. So at Heronsgate, quite a while ago, we basically squared up to this issue and decided we'd try a different route, which was that we have an iPad. So these can be updated every now and again with the app Explain Everything on there. And then you can use AirPlay to mirror your iPad screen to an Apple TV, which is then connected to a display. So we actually kept on using the projectors for the smart boards we already had, but you could connect it to any old flat screen TV. And then you're basically having the interactivity on the iPad itself. And then it's just visible for the students to see. Some of the nice things about this is that iPad can be shared around the room. You can literally hand it to the student if they want to write on it. And also that it just kind of keeps updated. So it's cheaper to replace an iPad than a whole smartboard, let's just say that. So yeah, using AirPlay to mirror that screen to the Apple TV. Interactivity is on that iPad, and then you could use an app like Explain Everything, although you could just use Keynote or PowerPoint too. But obviously this session is looking at Explain Everything. So I'm just going to show you a little bit about Explain Everything, how the app works, and then Ralph's going to share just kind of some working examples of some actual slides that he's been using even today. Is that right? Today? Amazing.
Yeah, just
fresh out of the oven of the classroom. Right. Okay. So here is a little bit of a demo. So I'm going to open Explain Everything. So we've got here is the app version that you could just pay for and you get to keep forever rather than a subscription version, but you can get a subscription version with extra cool features in it. So just going to open up here one I've made earlier. So like all these things, you've got multiple slides, but let me just show you how you start that AirPlay mirroring. So you access the control center on your iPad by swiping down from the top right. So you have to imagine that I'm swiping down from the top right here. And then you can see that there is a button. Currently it says dot connector because I'm connected to Zoom this way. But if you tap on that, you could then choose screen mirroring and you could mirror your iPad to one of the many Apple TVs on our network here at Heronsgate. So that's the process. And then your iPad screen appears on the Apple TV connected device on your wall, which is handy. A few things about Explain Everything that are quite handy is that the screen never goes off. Once you've opened a slide, the screen will stay on, which you might think, oh, that doesn't really matter. But actually, quite often you can teach a lesson, leave the slides up, go and work with groups for half an hour, and you don't have to think, oh no, my iPad's just turned off after 5 minutes.
It's definitely a positive thing, and it's something that it's underrated about it actually, because like if you do a lesson, not every lesson we do is on there's sometimes we used to have Keynote or PowerPoint slides occasionally, and like you go away and go on something, and 5 minutes later your iPad screen has turned off and all the children are going, oh, sir, the iPad's off, everything's not working. And actually the ability that it just stays on the screen is a very, very helpful thing.
It is good. Someone's thought about this. There is possibly the tendency to chew through batteries if you leave it on too long, but swings and roundabouts. Okay, so on the left here you've got a whole load of different icons to do all kinds of cool stuff. So for example, there's the finger tool here, which you press, and now basically every element you can basically move around. You can make it bigger. So it's completely like, there's no kind of press and drag and hold the handles at the corner. It's just move it wherever you want it, which is when you're kind of teaching, it adds that kind of fluidness to the interface, which is great. So tap on the drawing tools and I can start drawing. Here we go.
And also, if you're using an Apple Pen or pencil, that's useful for that as well, to keep your writing nice and neat on the whiteboard.
Yeah, possibly my handwriting would still be terrible. Let's just put that out there. But you get options, so you can choose a nice red or a blue. In fact, I think you can tap on these and choose any color.
Yeah, you can
So
choose
you can customize it in all kind of ways, make the pen a bit thicker. There's even a ruler, so you can set the angle. So if you actually do need to draw a nice 29-degree,
Interestingly enough, my one of the demo ones I'm doing is about angles. Yeah, it's actually, that ruler is more helpful than you'd think. I do use it quite a bit.
So that's really handy. And then you just tap on it again to get rid of it, and you can change it to a pencil. So there's kind of, it's drawing is thought about. There's a highlighter as well. As we go down, we can add objects. So this, you can add all kinds of things. So obvious things, you can add images. What's really nice is that you can literally take a photo. So I could go, let's use my camera. Here you go. You can have a nice picture of my mug. Here we go. It's not great, it's a little bit fuzzy. So I got that photo straight away. I could then even like draw around it. So I only want this little bit of the mug. Apply, boom, there we go. I've got an element I can just put on my slide straight away. So perhaps you can go around the classroom, there's a piece of work you want to share with the whole class, take a picture of it, and then you can just write all over it with everyone seeing it. So it's just, that's really handy.
I used quite a bit, and actually the opportunity, even if you're adding a photo or you're taking a photo, just to crop it straight away is very useful as well. When you're adding one in, it instantly gives you the opportunity to just to crop, so you actually just add the bit that you want. I use that quite a lot. When you're just sort of maybe taking a picture of the worksheet that the children are using, quickly take the photo. You don't want the outside bit, crop it. There it is. Within 2 seconds, it's up on the whiteboard.
Yeah. Definitely, as you become more confident using the app, it just kind of becomes a natural flow of teaching. There's clip art, so you can think, I really love a picture of a cat.
Who doesn't?
Yeah, there you go. And I've got a little cat. Lovely, look at that. So always handy. There are things like you can add a web browser. So if you want to add a YouTube video, you can bung it in there. If you want to, just any website, you can put it on there. So rather than having to go out and open a website somewhere else, or put in a web link to tap on, and then it just allows it all to be there, and so on. You can add a file. So, and it's a PDF. If you've got like a worksheet, add the worksheet in, and this is what it looks like. So it's very, very super flexible what it allows you to do. Very good. You can add shapes. These possibly are not as exciting. Christmas tree, obviously that's quite useful. It's a Christmas tree.
Actually, interesting. Sometimes with the shapes, the reason I add them in often is it's sometimes quite nice, because to make it more interactive, sometimes you use them just to cover bits of text or some of the pictures that you're going on to in a little bit, and then you can pull them away from so you can focus the children's attention on something at first, and then reveal the answer and stuff like that. I think I use that in a couple of things that I'm going to demo. Actually, that is just quite handy in itself, as well as just being the shapes they're needed for maths or anything like that.
Yeah, so kind of that screen shade approach, really useful. But again, you've just got these shapes built in, you can easily design your slides. Thusly, text tool, so you tap on it, tap where you want to type, and there we go. You've got all kinds of options, like change your font, and so on. Text editor. But something to be aware of is that once it's there, you can make it as big as you like by manipulating it. It's updated, so it kind of keeps the scale. So even if you typed it quite small, you can then just resize it, make it however big you want. So that's just useful to get text on a page. Very handy. Deleting objects. So the way this works, it's kind of modal. You press the delete option, and then whenever you tap on something, a little red cross appears. You can delete those objects. So then you just have to turn it back onto the finger mode to move things around.
Often, Tim, it's with this, like you go onto one of those ones on the left, and then you'll always end up coming back to that finger mode. It's sort of like the home button, if you were, of explain everything. So it's sort of like you add something, and then you'll move it around with the finger button. You always sort of end up back on that. Yeah,
really helpful. Quite fun. There is a laser pointer. So you just turn that on, and then you can just direct people's attention. Look over here, like if you're reading some words, you can follow along. Perhaps there's some music. Perhaps even if just getting students to focus on a particular part of the screen, because especially like if you were teaching with a just in front of a whiteboard, you'd be standing and pointing. But if you're standing with your iPad looking at your class, you just have to remember, oh, they can't necessarily see where my eyeballs are pointing. So this is just a useful way to just draw students' attention. If you look over, yeah,
It helps.
quite nice. Carry on.
I was going to say it helps you to basically to stand anywhere in the classroom, because often one of the biggest problems with Smart Notebook and other such things, or if it's PowerPoint or anything, often if it's on a standalone computer, you have to be standing at the front of the classroom. Whereas this, being able to walk around with your iPad using Explain Everything, and therefore the laser pointer as well, it means you can be standing anywhere in the classroom, and you can always just make sure the children are aware of what you're talking about by using that tool.
It's very good. And you can also turn on a lightsaber. So I'm not quite sure why you have a lightsaber, but I think some kids suggested to them, they're like, that is totally awesome. Let's put one in. I think they're actually Polish developers, but I'm sure some of them are American, let's be sure. So we've got, yeah, little laser pointer there, really helpful. And a last little feature that has proven invaluable, I think this is fair to say, is that you can screen record. So you literally press the red button at the bottom and it records everything you say and everything you do. So I could press this button. What's my microphone? Yeah, sure. So this is now recording me. I'm just going to add a cat. Here we go. Here's my cat. Meow, I'm going to go along here. And then perhaps I'm going to write the word hello cat. Now, obviously, this is not the most useful explanation video, and press stop. So now I can just play that back from the start. So this is now recording me. I'm just going to add all the different objects that I added and I move around. So it captures all that animation, all of my really useful talking.
And you've also got the camera button there next to it. You can actually record yourself while you're doing it. But this is useful for two things. One, when we've been doing lockdown, we've been able to do video lessons through this by actually sort of recording our lessons on Explain Everything. But also it's also useful for if you give something to the children to do on Explain Everything, they can record themselves doing it, and then save it to, say, Shobi or somewhere else, wherever you would keep it, and it's just a good way of the children evidencing what they're learning and the method that they're using.
Yeah, it's definitely very, very useful, because the children really learn from seeing how you do it rather than you just telling them do it like this, do not this. Actually, if you show them, and this is a great way to show that, and then you can always just export it at the top here as a video. And that will just, all of those recordings will be captured in a little video file that you can then share however you like to share. So I think that is some of the basics of Explain Everything. Yes, so I'm now going to hand over to you, Ralph, if you want to share perhaps some real world examples.
That share button's got a lot better recently, actually. The ability, like the ways you can share it now, like you sharing it as PDFs, and it's far easier now just to select pages of your folder as well. So actually, it's definitely improved a lot, the that side of it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go through two different little slides that I've done. One that I did yesterday, one I did a couple of weeks ago, and one of them was more just talking to the class presentation. The other one was actually a far more interactive one, where, because we've got one-to-one iPads at Heronsgate, the children had the iPads in front of them, and so they were doing the activities as we were going through it. So a couple of different sort of examples there. So just going to share the content. I'm going to share the one that we did first today, which was a bit more of the more PowerPointy of the two, but still interactive, quite interactive. So going on to Explain Everything. There we go. Save and close. So just, you can see at the start here, Tim, can you see everything? Yeah.
Yeah, all good.
Yeah, brilliant. You see on the start, so obviously we've got our different Explain Everythings down here in the library, and they're saved on the system. They're saved to the server very handily. So I've got demo and demo 2. I'm actually going to start with demo 2, and this was an English lesson that we had today. And so it's a mixture of different things. So we've got a starter talking about sort of verb openers, and the children can come up. I have to admit, we don't do this quite so much at the moment because of COVID, but before COVID, they were able to use my Apple Pencil and highlight on there which is appropriate for that. And then it gives you the opportunity to include pictures a lot more freer than on a PowerPoint. Like, I wanted this to be the main focus of this starter, so I can sort of zoom this, keep it open, and we can talk about it. Whereas you can't necessarily really do that on a PowerPoint, add the pictures in quite so freely and easily. So it's just a little starter on these. But where I was sort of going, the next bit is here. So the lesson we were doing today was about narrative voiceovers. Sort of that. So if you're watching a program and you are deaf, then it's that voiceover, trying to get the children to do descriptive language. And what's quite nice is that we can ask these questions, but I've already got 2 videos, very different videos evidenced on here. So if I just tap on the first video, it comes up. Tap to unmute on YouTube, and straight away.
An early man sat his grand piano with the spotlight shining.
And I could go that up to full screen while we were watching it, and then I can bring it back down. And then the same with this one. This one has been screen recorded off BBC iPlayer, but I can play it in a slightly different way.
High in Morocco's Atlas Mountain.
That one I couldn't necessarily zoom up like that, but all I'd need to do is just pinch it open and make it far bigger. And there's 2 opportunities there straight away. I've got the 2 videos already embedded that I wanted to use for this part. So we can talk about the voiceover. Why do you think voiceovers? And then get them to write down, it could be on their iPads, or in this case, it's just on their whiteboards, what features they found in the different clips, so that we could then as a class, I just erased them earlier, but we can go through and we can write on there the features using the pencil that we spotted about sort of adverbial openers and descriptive language and things like that. And then, so this is sort of guided as we're going through. And then the thing that they were doing in their books was linked to another video, a Britain's Got Talent audition, where they were having to think about what some of the language they would use for the voiceover narrative. So again, we tap on it, and we can, while we're watching it, we can zoom it up, and then we can play, and then we can stop. And then what I always try and do is I can have the pictures already ready for what their tasks are. So the activities today, I've taken a PDF and I just put it onto my Explain Everything, and that also means that I can help model it. So they've got their this is what was in their sheet, but they've got their different success criteria. So I'm saying to them, right, what I want you to do today is get different highlighters for different colors. So verb openers, characters, actions, I would like you to do that in red. And so dancing in the sunset, we've got a verb opener there. So I want you to highlight that. So I can model it instantly straight away using Explain Everything, just by the different tools that they can go. All right, okay, I've explained it now, off you guys go. So that was one of the slides for that we use for English today. But then a slightly different way to do it, which we do a fair bit in maths, is actually we send out the slides as well to their iPads. So we will go through the slides with them. They will have Explain Everything open on their iPads, and they will sort of be going through it with you. Sometimes you'll model it at the front. Sometimes you'll say, right, it's your turn now, as you'll sort of see. So we're doing angles of a straight line, so 180 degrees. So the first part of the lesson, the starter, was just trying to get them to do some number bonds to 180. So that'd be a straight away, right on your whiteboards, straight away, off you go. What do I have to add to these numbers to get to 180? So with the pencil tool, they'll be sitting there just going through it. 30, so I'm just using my finger now, 70, and so on. So then you can go through it with them as a class, and they've done it. It saves certainly ink on iPad, ink and costs and paper costs on that. And then again, we might go through this class, or I might ask them to write the answers down on their whiteboards. How many degrees in a right angle? This is the kind of stuff that would be a revision thing. So I'll probably just get them to try and do it themselves before we go through it. There are 2 right angles in a straight line. There are 180 degrees on a straight line. Okay, so I'd get them to try and, I don't know why I've put that degree sign in because it's already said degrees. But so this is the first thing we've come up. So I'll probably do this with them. Here's how we use our knowledge of angles to help solve us. So we'd talk about this as a class, and I'd probably show this one. And then we go through it and we talk about the bar model and talk about that. And then I'm going to sort of just move on, talking about today's LI. Now your turn, okay? Your turn. So having just demoed it, I can now straight away tell them to get on in their iPads. I know there are however many degrees in a straight line, and they can use that straight away and go straight into the bar model. So they'll fill in B with the right amount of degrees, and then they'd say 180 take away 27 equals, and they can fill that in. And then I think I did another, yeah, I did. So then scale it back even more, bringing in 3 or 4 different degrees. They know it has to add up to 180. Use the bar models to support them. They'll be using that on their iPads, filling it in as I'm teaching it. And then it's sort of obviously then I can keep my eye on it through different ways. You can use the classroom app just to keep the screen so I can see them on their screens, or I can walk around, obviously, either way. Probably depends on how active or lazy I'm feeling. But then they can also just show their iPad screens to me if I'm at the front. And then again, making sure at the end I've got their learning for the day. So this would be the sheets perhaps that they'd be getting on with as an example. And I can quickly go through that sheet with them, and they'll have it in front of them. Normally these would be sheets that would go in their book, but they wouldn't necessarily need to be. But they, yeah, either or, up to your choice. And then go through it. And then what this also does is at the end of the lesson, when you are going through it, it's a lot easier to go through it. You can go to the class, they can answer the questions, you can put it on the board. Were there any questions that people found particularly tricky, like maybe like 6 at the top there, about how there's 3 identical angles, and it gives you the opportunity to straight away demo it and talk about why the answer is what it is. So do you think that covers it, Tim?
I think so. That's fantastic. Thank you, Ralph.
So we go back to Zoom, stop share. Excellent.
Lovely. Right, I'm just going to share a few more thoughts.
I think there was a question while you were talking last time.
Yeah. So let's perhaps answer that question. The question came in, can Explain Everything be used on Zoom or in an LMS like Blackboard? I've not had a lot of experience with Blackboard. Not sure, because it's not just a straight PowerPoint. However, with Zoom, we are using Zoom to show you Explain Everything. So you just share your screen with Explain Everything on. It only works on an iPad. I think there is a web version as well that if you have the subscription you can use, but you know, if you can share your screen on an iPad and Zoom, that works the same as that. So a few things to think about using this to teach in a school is how you're going to AirPlay. So how are you going to get what's on your iPad onto the big screen? So Apple TV is a great solution. You can manage them with your MDM. However, there's lots of modern touchscreen kind of big displays have AirPlay built in. So you can literally just make sure that's turned on, however it works, and then just mirror from your iPad. Or you can install software like AirServer or Reflector on your existing PC, and it turns it into an AirPlay receiver. So that's a way to kind of get it from your iPad onto the screen. Or you can even just buy a cable and plug it in your iPad. But if you want that wireless experience, those ways. So it's just something to think about. Next thing is consider the versions. So you can buy the app. So we've been demoing the Explain EDU edition, which you basically we've purchased over the years with the volume purchase program. But you can also pay for a subscription. There's a free tier, I believe, or there's kind of monthly annual costs with educational discounts. So it's just about choosing what's the best way in your school for what you're doing. As we mentioned before, Apple Pencil is great, really useful to kind of give that accuracy, and I think increasingly makes it a real replacement for a traditional interactive whiteboard, because you have that kind of pen, that accuracy that you can really model handwriting well. Logitech crayons are a great cheap alternative to Apple Pencils. what's really nice is that Explain Everything integrates with cloud storage really nicely. So you can export and open files from all manner of cloud destinations. So Google Drive, OneDrive, there's lots of other options on there. So that's really great for collaborating or sharing documents and projects between teams. And as we mentioned earlier, they're great for making those explanation videos, that screencasting functionality that's really powerful and versatile. So then you can share the resulting video on your learning platform. So in that way, it's a great teaching tool when you're in front of your class or not. So at this point, if anyone's got any questions, please do just post them in the chat. And if you have any thoughts about something that's really struck you from today, anything that you've learned, that's also really helpful for us. You could post that in the chat. But that's basically the session for this afternoon. So we've got one last RTC course at the end of May looking at Keynote. So if you're interested, please do book into that. But apart from that, that's all from us. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. Hopefully that was useful and you feel like you got something out of that and understand a little bit more about Explain Everything and how it could work in the classroom. And yeah, so unless anyone's got any questions, we're going to close the session now. So thank you for your time.
Well, thank you guys. Hope you found something useful there.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody.